Hey guys, today we're going to be looking at dot plots. The first one is just a single dot plot, and then the next example we look at will be two different dot plots that we're going to compare. Now on this dot plot here, each dot is going to represent one person. So let's first figure out how many people are even included on this dot plot. 4, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So 20 people were asked, how many pets do you have at your home? Okay, let's start with the mean or the average. To find the mean or average, we are going to add, and then we're going to divide that by however many people or dots there are. Okay, so let's add up all these numbers. There are 4 zeros, so that's 0. There are 4, 5, 6, 7 ones, so that's 7. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 twos, so that would be 5 times 2 is 10. There are 3 threes, which that would be 9. There aren't any 4s, so that would just be a 0, but then here's 5, so there's 1 5. So let's add these numbers up. That would be 7 plus 10 is 17, plus 9 is 26, plus 5 more equals 31. So we're going to take 31 and then divide it by however many people were asked. How many pets do you have at your home, which is 20. And let's do first number in, last number out. 20 goes into 31 once. Minus 20 is 11. Add a decimal, bring down a 0. 20 goes into 110 5 times. 20 times 5 is 100, with 10 left over when we subtract. Bring another 0 down. 20 goes into 100 5 times. 20 times 5 is exactly 100. We are finished. So on average, now this says 1.55. It doesn't really make sense for somebody to have a decimal or a fraction of a pet. So on average, I would say, people have 1 to 2 pets per household. Alright, median is the middle. So our goal here is to figure out what is the very middle dot, the median number. To find the middle or the median, we're going to cross off first, last. First, last. And that's going to help us figure out where is the very middle of this data. So I'm going to keep going back and forth. Now, if I kept going, both of these dots would be crossed off. So here's our middle, our median, and it's above the number 1. So the middle number would be 1. So the median is 1 pet per house. Mode is the number that has the most dots or is the tallest. So I'm going to find the tallest one. Well, right here, the number 1 is the tallest. So the mode is 1. Range goes from the highest number minus the lowest number, or from the lowest to the highest. The lowest number that has any dots would be 0. And the highest number that has any dots is a 5. Now let's say that this number line had been extended and right here was a 6, but there are no dots above the 6. The highest number is still 5 because it's the highest number that has a dot. So this data, it goes from 0 to 5. And to find the range, we're going to take the highest number and subtract it with the lowest number, and that would be 5. So of these 20 people, they said anywhere from 0 to 5 pets at their home. Alright, an outlier is a dot that is alone, it's off by itself, it's not really with the rest of the data. Well, I see this dot right here, it seems to be alone, and so yes, there is an outlier at the number 5. So in general, 5 pets is a little different than what the rest of the people answered. A cluster is a group of points. I do see a cluster. The rest of these points are tightly grouped together. So yes, there is a cluster from 0 to 3 pets. So most people said, okay, we have 0 to 3 pets at our home. There was one person that's an outlier that said, oh, we have 5 pets. Alright, now we're going to look at 2 dot plots and we're going to kind of compare and contrast them and then make a generalization about it. These 2 dot plots are talking about the number of hours of exercise people get per day and the hours of video games that they play per day. This was the same group of people, so every person was asked these 2 questions and then we recorded it. So that means there should be the same amount of dots on each side. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So there were 11 people that we surveyed. Okay, let's look at the first one. Where is most of the data located at? So most of the data for exercise, I would say, is from 0 to 3. That's where most of it is located. So for exercise, most people said that we exercise from 0 to 3 hours. For video games, most of the data, I would say, is this area from 4 to 7. So the same group of people said that they mostly play 4 to 7 hours of video games. Median can also be referred to as the center. So remember, to find the median, we want to find the middle dot. So we're going to cross off first, last, back and forth until we find the very center dot, which is right here. So exercise median would be above the 2. Let's look at video games. So first, last, back and forth until we find the very middle dot. And the median here would be above the 5. So the median for exercise is 2. The median for video games is 5. I'm going to pause right here and let's compare these numbers. If you notice, so far in our both answers we've gotten, exercise tends to be a lower number than the video game hours. Alright, range. Remember, range is from the lowest number to the highest number. It can also be referred to as the spread. So for exercise, it goes from 0 to 7 hours. Remember, if there was another number here, 8, but there were no dots above it, the highest is still a 7 because it's the highest one that has a dot above it. So the highest number, 7 minus 0, would be 7. And then for video games, the lowest with a dot is 0 and the highest with a dot is 7. So again, 7 minus 0. So they do have the same range. Clusters. Remember, a cluster is a group of points. And so at exercise, there is a group of points where most of the data is located at 1 to 3 hours. And then for video games, I am seeing a cluster here, a large group of points from 5 to 7 hours. Clusters are where most of the data is. That's what most of the people have said. 1 to 3 hours we exercise, 5 to 7 hours we play video games. Any outliers? Well, I am noticing some points that are off by themselves for video games. This one is all alone, and there are 2 out here, but they could be an outlier. They're away from the rest of the data. So I would say yes, there are outliers. For exercise, there's an outlier at 7 hours. And then for video games, there's an outlier at 0 hours. So let's talk about our clusters and outliers. For exercising, most of the people said we exercise from 1 to 3 hours. And then, a couple people said, well, we exercise for 7. They were different from the rest of the group. For video games, most of the people said we play 5 to 7 hours of video games, but then there was somebody kind of by themselves saying, yeah, no, we don't play any video games, 0 hours a day. They were off by themselves, away from the rest of the group. In general, so based on all of this data that we gathered, what can we infer about the relationship between exercising and playing video games? Well, I'm noticing that the exercising numbers tend to be lower, like 0 to 3, 2, 1 to 3 hours, than video games, where video games was 4 to 7 hours, median 5 compared to 2. 5 to 7 hours compared to 1 to 3 hours. So it looks like, and if you just look at the pictures, it looks like people tend to play more hours of video games than they do exercising. So in general, we could say that people tend to spend more time playing video games than exercising. So again, just to look at the picture, the video games are shifted to the right, where the hours of exercise is shifted to the left with lower numbers. That could also be called skewed to the right. And this would be called skewed left. Okay guys, that was kind of a quick rundown on dot plots and the types of questions that kind of go along with dot plots. Just remember, mean is the average. Add, divide by the total dots. Median is the middle dot where you cross them off until you find the very center dot. Mode is the number with the tallest column or the most dots. Range goes from the lowest number to the highest number and we subtract. Outlier is alone, cluster is a group. Thanks for watching.